Welcome back to the Education System Reboot channel. I wanted to make a quick video because it's something I was just talking about with my students. And so you see I'm in a different place. This is my band room. Basically, it's about going from good to better to best and what that really looks like in the education system. And so I made a video once back about quality of application versus quality of instruction. And this should be short, but I want to illustrate using my hands here. One hand represents teaching, the other represents students' responsibility, if you want to call it that way. And basically, if we understand the idea of the quality of the application, right? So let me give this background. So no matter how well I teach, no matter how good or how well I plan out the lesson that I'm going to teach, like someone could watch me teach a lesson and they could say, as a lesson, that was one of the best I've ever seen. And that's great. And we need teachers that can do that all the time, right? The problem that I see, or the way I want to word it is, but what about the quality of the application? Meaning, if a student does not have the underlying skill, the organizational skills, the mindset to take that information and apply it into their lives in some form or fashion, or in other ways, is to have a way of actually applying it or practicing it or whatever, then it almost doesn't matter how good the quality of instruction. So here's what this video is about. So I've got representing teaching, representing the student. So obviously, on the teaching aspect, we really don't want or need teachers that can't teach quality instruction. So that's the bottom rung, right? And so the recipe for disaster in the education system would be teachers that don't have the ability to deliver good instruction, paired with students who don't know how to apply stuff in their life, or don't care, or are apathetic, whatever. So it's a personal responsibility on this side. We need to teach that. We need to teach the personal responsibility to the students, and we have to figure out routines and ways and expectations that grow that area, right? Obviously, we want the teachers to grow as well. But there you go. That's the recipe for disaster. And I'm not saying this to be simplistic, but I would argue that there are probably more districts than we would care to admit that fall under that category, because we talk all the time about students and their apathy towards stuff and their inability to take ownership. And then we probably have subpar teachers. Like, this is not meant as criticism, this is meant as a thing that's just out there. I mean, I think we can say that. All right, so that's the bottom. That's what we don't want. Now we're starting to get, so it's kind of like the idea of what we don't want: good, better, best, right? Good, better, best. And in some ways, this middle section, there's some overlap. All right, so hopefully you followed me this far. So here we are. So here represents a teacher who delivers quality instruction. I lied. Oh, actually, that works. Quality instruction, but we're still at the apathetic student, right? So there is no doubt that a teacher that can deliver quality instruction, even if the student does not have the capacity or have the skill set to really take that and apply it to their life, but they're going to learn more than this, right? So it's kind of like good. So we want the teacher, okay? Now, ironically, and this is where we can have a debate on which one should be in what order, but let's say we have a teacher that doesn't deliver great instruction. Now, I'm going to assume they're not terrible, but they're not great. It's subpar, right? But you have a student, right, who takes ownership of the learning, who has good habits, who studies, who has good organizational skills, that listens intently, that takes the information, that doesn't think that it's the teacher's responsibility to teach them, but thinks that it's their responsibility to learn, right? So in my opinion, that's going from terrible to good to better, right? And then what is best? Well, what is best is teachers who can deliver amazing, clear instruction paired with students who take ownership of their learning. That's it. It's very simple. Now, we spend thousands and hundreds of thousands of millions of dollars, to try to get teachers to be qualified, blah, 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 and improve in this area. And again, I will say one little caveat. A lot of our professional development is crap. It's just crap. So it's really not even helping teachers teach better, to be honest, okay? That's a whole nother thing. I might rant on that later. Not in this video, but later. But how much time do we spend developing those skills to help students become better students, to look at themselves and say, it is my responsibility. I have to take ownership as the student of the learning process, right? And I would say that without quality routines, without the idea of teaching them how to organize their life, how to think critically, how to take notes, how to manage deadlines, how to, I mean, I go off a whole list of different things. The soft skills, right? The skills that are transferable to everything in life. Why do we not put an emphasis? So in essence, we can grow the education system on two fronts or three fronts, right? But the two fronts would be keep improving the quality of instruction in the teacher area. At the same time, simultaneously find ways of empowering, educating, equipping, I can think of all these different words, the students to start becoming masters of their own destiny, right? Because let's be honest, as teachers, when we see successful kids, underneath that is kids that have good habits. It's not rocket science, and yet we treat it as if it is. We treat it as if like there's some thing that separates, like there's just some special quality that's not teachable for those high-end students. No, everything is teachable. If that was the case, number one, I couldn't teach music. I can teach music to anybody, right? And to be blunt, especially during this COVID stuff, what I've been trying to do is just constantly do great at my instruction, but actually focus over here. I've been trying to empower them and teach them how to practice themselves so that ultimately they become the master of their destiny. I've said this many times, and I'm going to end with this. The greatest compliment that a student can give a teacher is to not need them. So I ask you, are we creating a system that allows more and more students to do that, to not need the teachers? I would argue in its current structure, we are absolutely not doing that. And I think that in lies one of the things we must improve upon in the education system, okay? And that starts with holding higher standards, teaching more fundamental applicable skills. Remember, all of our content, no matter what teacher we are, there's a wealth of information out there on this thing called Google and YouTube. Every kid, if they decided that a subject was important to them, they could learn it on their own. So what we need to do as an education system is shift our focus from the content-specific stuff, even though that's important. I want to be clear. I think music is important. I think math, I think education is important. But we need to teach it with the idea of teaching them to fish, not giving them the fish, not regurgitating information, but critically thinking. The softer skills, the underlying skills that are going to allow them to be successful in whatever area they head into, right? And I would even argue, like, good writing skills, good math skills, all those things are important. They are so important. But if kids can't apply them to their life, I don't believe they will be as successful as we would like, okay? And yeah, I think that wraps it up. So as always, you can see it behind me, right there over my shoulder. Consistent effort over time equals success. Have a great day. Thank you.